We got some news today that one of the Buffalo Sabres' highly touted goalie prospects is not going to sign with Buffalo at the end of the season, and some insiders think that Montreal could be a perfect trade destination. We'll be getting into that, plus Coach Martin St. Louis and Nick Suzuki speak out about last night's poor performance. Finally though, on a lighter note, Juraj Slafkovsky had one of his best games of the season, so we're going to get into all this on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse. Quickly before we get into the video, reminder to subscribe if you haven't already, and you're here every day watching our videos, hit the button. You don't want to miss anything we have to say here. First topic of today. There might be a Habs Sabres goalie trade incoming. It's purely speculation, but I want to get into it because I think this could be exciting. On a recent 32 Thoughts podcast episode, NHL insider Jeff Marek mentioned that Sabres prospect Erik Portillo may be looking to sign elsewhere because of the Sabres logjam. They said he's a third-round pick, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to sign him at the end of the season, and he wants to explore his options in free agency. We also see here that Portillo would be an interesting gamble should Kent Hughes decide to strike on a buy low kind of deal. This is according to Marco D'Amico, a Habs insider. Portillo would have ample opportunity in Montreal's system to grow and prove he could be a top-end starter in the NHL down the line. Now, Erik Portillo, if you haven't heard of him, he currently plays for the University of Michigan, and he's pretty good. Let's take a look at his stats. So in 2020-2021, he was the backup to their starter, of course, but he still had a .935 save percentage, showed some promise. And keep an eye there, he's 22 years old, but he's 6'6", and according to a Buffalo scouting website, he moves very, very well for a 6'6" player, shows brilliant awareness when there's traffic in front of the net, and really excels at following the play. And last year in 2021-22, with a 2.14 GAA and a .926 save percentage, he was a semi-finalist for the award for best NCAA goalie. So this guy has potential, and he doesn't need much more time to develop, which is kind of awesome if you're a Montreal fan and you're looking at our future goaltending needs. Jake Allen and Samuel Montembeault, while they've had their ups and downs, neither of them look like the long-term starter for the Habs. Cayden Primeau, we've tried him. He's still not that old. He can still develop a bit. But someone like Erik Portillo, in Buffalo's system, where Devin Levi, another NCAA goalie for Buffalo, who won that Mike Richter award for best NCAA goalie, he's still ahead of him. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is there, Craig Anderson, and they just signed Eric Comrie. There is a bit of a logjam, so Buffalo is looking to get off of this player. They know they can get some value for him. Former third-round pick, excelling at the NCAA level, some team would probably like to take a flyer on him. And why not Montreal? Montreal's in desperate need of a goalie, as I mentioned, to sort of have, as if not a future starter, at least a future backup, because Portillo looks like he could easily be that and has potential to be a decent starter. So why doesn't Kent Hughes go after him? And like Marco D'Amico pointed out, this can be a really buy low option for Montreal because Buffalo, they have their options in net. They know other teams are going to look at them and say like, hey, we have all the leverage here, Buffalo. You need to get rid of this guy. If you want anything for this he'll just not sign with you at the end of the season if you don't trade him right now. So we'll give you like maybe like a second or third round pick and maybe a really low tier like AHL player and like just try and maneuver their way. Maybe that wouldn't get the deal done, but I'm sure Kent Hughes could find a way to bring Erik Portillo to Montreal. And if not him, maybe Devin Levi, as we've explored in past videos. I don't think Buffalo fans would be too happy about that, but at the very least, keep an eye on Portillo, keep an eye on the Habs, because I think this trade could be a sneaky good fit for Montreal. Topic number 2, look, last night's performance, if you watched my video, it was just another shutout performance when we're wearing the baby blues, the powder blue reverse retro jerseys. Montreal just didn't have it last night, and Coach Martin St. Louis and our captain Nick Suzuki were both very, very unhappy with the performance. You see, Habs coach Martin St. Louis after the game, he was asked on how he wants his players to feel about their play in the first period. One word: embarrassed. Now, I think that's straight to the point. We've seen Coach Martin St. Louis be a lot rougher around the edges lately, especially when it comes to Habs players. Not too long ago in our game against Nashville, he straight up came out and said his patience has run thin with certain players, just like Yoel Armia. He said, nope, my patience has run out with him, and he's getting healthy scratch tonight. That turned out to be a good thing for Armia because a couple games later, he got his 2-goal breakout game, and he's looked better since that benching, so Coach Martin St. Louis is trying out some different strategies, but he is clearly very unhappy with his players' performance. But not only him, the captain Nick Suzuki says it's pretty unacceptable from our group. It started with my line's first shift there. We got hemmed in for 2 minutes, as we all saw. It starts with my line and trickled down from there. Down 3-0 after the first isn't a good spot, and that's putting it lightly. 3-0 after the first is Montreal's maybe come back from that, once this season, if that. Like, it's not a great thing to have, especially at home, especially when the crowd is just not behind you. That famous crowd in Montreal is willing to boo you. They booed after the first period last night, and the players definitely, they understand it, but it's not exactly instilling confidence in them. But I think it's good that we're seeing these kind of quotes. If Coach Martin St. Louis was like, a loss is a loss, it's okay. No, he is saying they're embarrassed. He wants to get on them. He wants to help our guys. Again, team tank it all. I'm with you guys, but still, it's really good to see the coach that cares about how his players perform. Someone that really cares about everyone around them, and not just the coach, also Nick Suzuki, who, by the way, really took responsibility in that. He said straight up, it starts with my line. Started with my line, and it trickled down from there. We weren't showing the effort, so it ended up trickling all the way down to the rest of the lineup. So I think it's awesome to see that our coach is really getting on the guys. And I think it's awesome to see Nick Suzuki stand up for himself and his teammates, but also just say, we got to be better. So I'm still okay with losing games, don't get me wrong, but I think this is just, from a personality and player development standpoint, this is a great thing to see. Quick final topic today. I wanted to talk a bit about Juraj Slafkovsky, and I titled last night's video, one of the subtitles was Juraj Slafkovsky's best game. And you might have been wondering, okay, well, that's just clickbait, right? Slafkovsky didn't score. He had, 2 shots, or not even a shot and 2 hits. He had a couple good scoring chances, but people are saying, his best game. But if you watch the game, if you watch the video and you listen to sort of what I had to say, I think that there's a legitimate case that in the last game or two, he's been playing some of his best hockey, especially last night. Some of the plays he made where he was seeing ahead of the play, gets a pass on one side of the ice, a one-touch pass to Dvorak for a breakaway. Slav himself had a great breakaway, and another high-danger scoring chance later where he's getting into the slots, getting into the spaces. I think his positioning has been the best we've seen at all in his rookie season. And it wasn't just me that noticed this. You can see Priyanka Emrith, another Habs, or Sportsnet insider who tweets about the Habs. She said on a night where the majority of Habs players were MIA, Juraj Slafkovsky was one of the rare bright spots. He played 14 minutes and 37 seconds, which is the second highest of the season. And then Marc Dumont quote tweets that and says, he also had 2 individual high-scoring chances, which is notable since he was sitting at just 8 chances coming into the game. He also mentions to maybe bring the Slafkovsky-Evans-Anderson line back. And I kind of agree with that. I think that could be an interesting line, but I'm more focused on Slafkovsky himself. The fact that he has 1/5 of his total high danger scoring chances in the season in last night's game, along with his increased ice time, and along with really passing the eye test from me and a lot of other Habs fans who are watching, I think he's starting to bounce back because, boy, he was on a bad stretch of games where he was making mistakes, keeping his head down, turnover after turnover, people were getting worried, and as no one should, because Slavzilla is still in full effect. Again, he's 18, guys. Anyone who's genuinely worried about him, just take a step back and let's just watch him develop. Let's give him a year or two at least before we start judging him. But these last few games, since that bad stretch, since as we were ending the losing streak, he's looked better. He's been bouncing back. He's been making better plays, keeping his head up, and playing more ice time. Clearly, the coaching staff has a lot of faith in him, a lot of confidence, keeping him on the ice for these long stretches. So I'm super happy with his performance. And I hope you guys have been noticing it too, because I haven't been seeing as much Slav love as I have earlier in the season, probably because he's on a pretty bad, 17-game goalless streak, something like that. He's been getting some assists here and there. His points aren't, what we'd really want them to be. But at the same time, he's 18, and we're finally seeing these adjustments of these things that we were taking as criticisms early in the season. His positioning, not keeping his head up, his playmaking to some extent. They're starting to improve game by game, and last night was, just from a pure development standpoint, I think my favorite game of the season from Slafkovsky. So go back and watch the highlights. Go back and watch the game if you want to see what I mean. But I think you guys should be excited because we're seeing some pretty quick development for this guy, and I'm really excited to see what he brings in the future. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, comment on the video, do whatever you can to help us out. Your guys' support's been amazing. We're over 3,300 subscribers now, and we love doing this every single day. I'm Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next video.